it's Maria here. Thank you for joining me today on my Artist Maria Burke YouTube channel. Today I'm working on this little painting. It's painted in acrylic paint. It's just on acrylic paper. You can use card or any type of paper, good solid paper that you have available. Even watercolor paper would be great. So very simple palette, only a few primary colors that I'm using here, and you'll see what I'm using as we go along. So if you just have a basic supply of acrylic paint, some water, some paper, you can get going on this little project. Also, it's very suitable for mounting and sending. You could do a smaller version and do it as a card, because it's just simple floral shapes that look really pretty as cards, or simple gifts if you frame them and send them to friends. Also, you could divide them up, and I'll hope to make a video in the future and show you exactly how to do that and to mount them onto paper and send them off as autumnal or summer or winter greeting cards. So we'll get started. Hope you enjoy it. So I'm just beginning on a piece of acrylic paper that I've cut down to size. This paper is easy to get anywhere. Any art shop, any art supply shop will provide you with acrylic paper, and they come in sketch pads. But if you don't have it, if you're on lockdown and you don't have access to an art shop, any kind of paper will do. You can paint on anything. But it's better to get something that's a bit strong, like a piece of card, ordinary white cartridge, a good strong quality cartridge. I've also used watercolor paper, but I tend to use the opposite side that you would use for watercolors. I had a big batch of watercolored paper and I wasn't using it for watercolors, so I reversed the side and I used the flatter side, and that was it works very well for doing acrylic painting as well. If you use the absorbent side of the watercolor paper, it will just absorb the color far too much. I find it will absorb the acrylic paint far too much. And if you want to go for a thicker style of painting, which I'm doing here, and it's slightly thicker than watercolor, it's better to use the flatter, the less absorbent side of the paper. So I'm just using various different colors here. I'm using a brown, and really it doesn't matter what color brown you use. This underpainting it's not important exactly the colors you're putting down. Some pinks here I'm adding in, and also a little touch of blue mixed with the pink, and that's giving me that violet color. So just to let you know what colors I like in my palette, I really limit the colors that I use. As you can see there, just to break in, before I talk to you about the colors, I was using a pencil, and I've also taken some of the excess paint off here just with ordinary kitchen paper, because the painting was a bit wet and I just wanted to keep working. The other thing you could do if you're in a hurry and you want to just start working again over the painting is use a hairdryer, and that will just dry the paper really, really quickly, dry the paint, and you can get going again without smudging the color or blending the colors too much into each other. So I'm just working on some details here at the upper part of the painting, and that piece of paper now will move upwards in a few minutes, so you'll see the full view in a few moments. So the colors I like to use here, I'm using, I'm back to yellow. I love the cadmium yellow, cadmium lemon yellow, and I've mixed that with a lot of white to really lighten it up, and it's very, very pale. And the green there that I was using was a mixture of cerulean blue with some of that cadmium lemon yellow. So really very, very limited palette here. I like the pinks I'm using. I like crimson. Sometimes I like the rose madder. They're beautiful shades of pink. But again, I will mix them up with a little blue, and the cerulean blue is a very good blue. And then with the darks, I would go for maybe a Prussian blue, is very useful, or you could use ultramarine just for adding into the colors and to darken things down. If you want to make a more scarlet colored red or an orangey red, you can mix that cadmium lemon yellow with the with your crimson, and that will make a brighter red, more orangey red color for you. So really, I would advise to buy good quality colors, to go for a good brand. You know, you don't have to go for the top brands. I think I have a lot of Winsor and Newton. I like those. I love Dale Rowney as well. All of them are good. I do particularly like the colours in the Winsor and Newton. And basically just all you need is a few colours and you mix them together. Here I am using white, just pure white paint, because I felt the painting had got a little bit dark. So I'm using a very thin brush and just adding in white paint and then going over it then with some colour. So it's kind of like bringing it back to the white again, and then you can go over that with washes of colour, and that will give you the white showing through. The lemons and the lighter colours will really give your painting, lighten it up and give it a vibrancy. So just putting in the highlights there with the white, and now I'm adding the low lights again using that that deep ochre brown. Also, a very useful colour is sap green. So if you're going into a shop and you're looking for a very, very dark green, a sap green is good. It's very like the colour of grasses. And if you add it with white, you'll lighten it up and get really nice, interesting shades with it. But any dark green will do. And you can make your own dark green by mixing your a deeper Prussian, a deeper blue with your green or with your lemon yellow. So here, coming back in with some bright yellow paint just to really bring up the colours in this painting. So these pictures, they're very simple and easy. I'm just really, these little flower shapes they're 5-leafed flowers, 5 petals. And so really that's all. I'm just roughly going in and putting in 5 petals here and there around in a circular shape, and just putting others over it and lightening up some of them, darkening some of them down to give me contrast in different shades. So it's very much an overall pattern coming out of this. Flowers everywhere, maybe a kind of an aerial view of looking down onto a flower bed, and just the tangle of colour and little flower heads and little bits of twigs and stems showing through. And it's very, very easy just to mount these up, or else just cut them out and stick them onto some white card and send them off as cards, greeting cards. You could also cut this picture up. If you did a large one, you could cut it up into 8 sections or 4 sections, and each one of those sections you could use to make a card. You could mount it or just stick it on to some card, fold it in 2, and there you have a lovely little handmade greeting card, and you can sign it. So it'd be very special to send to somebody something that, it's always lovely to send something that's handmade. Now, when I began this picture, I put some masking tape. It's like masking tape. It's really an artist type of tape that you put. I stuck it onto the edges So there's a lot of light shining onto this picture, so it's hard for you to see that masking tape, but it is the same color as the page. But I did that so I could tear it off at the end and reveal a straight edge line. So you'll see that when I come to the end of the picture, I'll be peeling off the masking tape to reveal a straight line. But there are some problems with doing that. I ran into a few problems. Um, the tape, I left it on for a few days, and then when I pulled it off, it stuck to it was stuck fast, and it did rip a bit of the paper underneath off with it. So that is, you need to be very, very careful to buy a tape that isn't too sticky. So I did go into an artist shop and I bought one that I thought was suitable, but it did still rip my paper, which wasn't very good. But what I can do is go back over the edges and repaint those with white, just plain white acrylic, and that'll make them perfect again. So working with my pink there. A lot of these colors, some of them came from the tube, some of them I mixed up myself. That's probably a permanent purple, I think, that I'm using there. And coming back in with my white again, to bring up those highlights. And painting is often a process of just going back and forth, putting in the lowlights, and then the painting gets darker, and then coming back in with the highlights. And I'm just putting in these little hearts, the little centers of those flowers, and adding in more detail as I go along. And the beauty of acrylic painting is if you mess up a part of the painting, you just put another little bit of acrylic paint over it, let it dry. It only takes a few minutes for it to dry, or use a hair dryer on it, or use a piece of kitchen paper to blot it off, and then you can get going again and work over it. So I hope you enjoyed this painting today. If you got value out of it and you enjoy it, please subscribe and like and share. And that way you'll get to see more of my videos. And I hope to see you again very soon. Normally I'm putting a video up, God willing, once a week. I usually post them up on Tuesday. I share them. Sometimes I put them up Monday evening, but they're always ready by Tuesday. So do watch out for them. So there you had just little pale dabs of pale yellow mixed with white. And just using these little dots. Just when you're looking at flowers, there are so many tiny, tiny little parts of the flowers. And if you didn't have a magnifying glass, they just simply look like tiny little sparkles or little dots. Now here I am pulling off that masking tape that I was telling you about. As I say, be very careful about doing this because some of this tape did rip the paper off underneath. But I was able to repair that just by going over it with the plain white acrylic paint. And also some of the paint bled over the sides. It's not perfect. So it didn't leave a perfect line, but I did come back in again. You'll see me now just coming back in with the brush and with the pure white paint and making that line perfectly even. So that's the thing about painting. Everything is repairable. And here's the finished piece. So talk to you next time. God bless.